You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell. Sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, September 3rd show. I am dedicated to you, my listeners, providing you with the tools needed to make informed decisions on matters affecting your money. If you heard my show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. You can talk with the guests that I have in studio or chat with myself anytime by calling the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And next guest in studio is Puls with Windermere Real Estate Yarrow Bay office. And we're going to be talking about challenges facing realtors in 2016 and beyond. Wolf, thanks for coming back and joining me in studio.
Thanks, Tina. Good to be here.
And a little bit about Wolf. Wolf is with Windermere Yarrow Bay with almost 33 years anniversary coming up as a licensed agent. He has over 1,000 transactions in 41 Washington cities and towns and has been at the same office, the Windermere Yarrow Bay office, for all but 3 of those 33 years, which is little unusual in the real estate world. Wolf is actively engaged with the Local and State Realtors organizations. He will be attending the Fall State Conference of Washington Realtors this month in Spokane. Past president of Seattle King County Realtors, 6,000 member trade organization to promote private property rights and foster professionalism in the industry. Wolf is working on finding balance between his busy real estate career and future retirement by splitting time between Seattle and Lake Chelan. Lucky man you are, Wolf.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I was just realizing when you read that, I think today, this is September 1st, right?
Oh.
Or not.
It's actually September 3rd.
Yeah, well, it's Labor Day weekend. I don't know. What weekend is it? Anyway, see, you said 33 years and my mind's going, no, this is actually, it will be the beginning of my 33rd year because I started right after Labor Day. And it was going to be my one-year career chance, see if this was worthwhile doing. So, I've done it 33 years in a row, tried to figure out if this is what I want to do. So here we are.
Here we are.
Who's counting when there's 30 years?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's been fun.
So, Wolf, what's the biggest challenge that realtors face in the trenches during the year?
Tina, there's always challenges in real estate, because real estate isn't a constant thing. But one of the things that I think has come to light in my business, and I'm sure it is with a lot of realtors this year, is the fact that appraisals, which are integral to the loan process, have become very cumbersome and slow and have delayed planned closings.
Yes.
And I think part of the problem is, and it comes from an example of a property we just closed, that when borrowers innocently enough, they perhaps they're using an online lender, or in a case like this they were using a lender that was based on the East Coast. Those particular lenders may not have much of a presence here in terms of their connection with the appraisal management companies. And that creates some real potential problems. We were a month into a transaction and the appraisal wasn't even ordered.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy.
Yeah, and so essentially we're getting just incorrect information because, the lender said, well, we're in Pennsylvania and we really don't have, this and so on and so forth. And by the way, the appraisers that are responding are saying that the property's too rural. So I had to remind them that Duval was only 20 minutes from one of the largest tech companies in the world called Microsoft, and it really wasn't a rural environment, but they didn't know that. So
for your listening right now, it is a challenge. Everybody's having challenges with the appraisal process. The timing and the slow up is in the recent, but finding out, making sure that the appraisers that they use in their management companies are local understand that it's an urgency to get that appraisal ordered, which means the buyers need to give the intent to proceed. So, Wolf, are there any other challenges that are happening, or is that the biggest thing that you're seeing on the agent side right now?
I think that, I'm going to put that one as number one.
Yep.
And really because what I've seen from the lenders, everybody's on target, as far as, and we've all been taught in the industry is that what we used to, unless it's a cash sale where you can make it close fairly quickly, you pretty much name your time frame. Here's the problem that I kind of see. When you're presenting an offer in a very active market, you want to make your offer as strong as possible. If you're going to put into your offer that it's an extended close, and by extended I mean longer than, say, 6 weeks, 45 days, that may not be strong enough for the seller to consider that as something that they'd want to take. So I think what happens is a lot of agents are optimistically putting in, like, say, we'll do this in 30 days.
Yes.
And it's just not feasible with the shortage, and there is a shortage in appraisers these days.
There is. And plus appraisals are up 300% from where they were last year. So I mean, you just run the numbers. But here's if the industry would just come to a new realization of setting the expectations. A 45-day is a realistic close. You can close loans in less than 45 days. But if you want to set things up for success versus failure, which your 30 days can definitely get in that area. So, Wolf, changing streams here, the upcoming presidential election, how do you see that affecting the market?
That's a question you get from both buyers and sellers. And to be honest with you, I think that there may be some slight effects on consumer confidence. There's every time you have something, a national election, there's a little bit of trepidation on people's parts. Well, if there is a new administration, whether it's Democrat or Republican, will that affect values? I honestly don't think that is really what would happen. I think what really we need to focus on and is always what happens locally. What happens in your local elections? What happens with bond, measures, what happens with things that affect people's taxes, and also things that are related to transportation, and of course education. And we've got some issues in our state. Transportation and education are one. We're still trying to solve the McCleary decision and also figure out what's going to happen with our transportation. It's interesting, Tina. A couple of years ago, I found a newspaper in one of my listings. It was an old newspaper. It was a house that was being cleaned out, and this newspaper was back from the mid-1960s. Okay. It was the Bothell Citizen, and now it's called the North Shore Citizen. I actually delivered that newspaper when I was 12 years old. That newspaper from 1965 or maybe 1966 had a quote from Dean Worthington, who was the head of People's Bank at that time. And his major thing in 1965 said, this region needs to figure out transportation. 1965.
Yeah, wow.
And we're still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
We're making some progress.
We're making some progress. Yeah. This progress is far out in the distant time, but we are making progress. So let's talk about the housing affordability. Puget Sound region, is it a distant memory? What do you see happening with housing affordability?
I'll be honest. I think it could be that affordability may be a distant memory, and I hate to say that, but I'm looking at it going back just even a couple of years. And I'd say in 2014, I had many clients that, first-time buyers particularly, that are looking, say, $350,000 to $450,000. And while we probably couldn't accommodate them with single-family residences within, say, Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland, and some parts of Seattle, if we moved out to, say, Bothell, Kenmore, or down to the Renton areas, there was inventory there. We've had, of course, inventory shortages. That's no surprise to anybody. But the interesting thing is I'm working with a client right now that just kind of tops out at $400,000. There's nothing single family There was a house I showed the other day. It was a HUD repo for $395,000. I don't think any of us would want to move in there.
That's crazy.
Pretty scary.
And the interesting things is when we're going to see interest rates go up, because obviously that's going to have a huge impact. Yeah. So the lack of inventory, the risk of interest rates going up, it's definitely a time to take advantage now if you can get into the market. Wolf, what are your thoughts on the trend of urbanization of suburbia?
Well, the thing I meant by that is, and when we pose these questions, is that as we've been noticing in a lot of the suburban cities, and for example, I'll use Redmond and my hometown Kirkland, but also in areas like Duval and most noticeably in areas like Bothell, where I grew up, is that those downtown corridors have become a lot like what we would see in Greenwood in Seattle or some of the more urban areas. And there's a lot of people that kind of go, oh, geez, that's really not what we want to see in our little town. But the reality is, to me, is that, we have the demand there. People need to live somewhere. They like to live in nice areas. And the construction, like, say, for example, in Bothell, to my knowledge, Bothell was kind of a sleepy little town, and now it's a great place, and people are enjoying it. McMenamin's is a great place to go.
Yes.
The old Anderson School, yeah. I think we've all been there and enjoyed it, and it's a great place to be. And you talked earlier about walkability scores.
Yes,
those places have it, so we don't require a car if we live in those areas. So it's a good thing. Yeah. In my opinion.
So what about getting into real estate? If I have any listeners that are considering real estate as a career, what is your advice to them? Is now a good time to consider that?
Great question. I think you've asked me that before, and I'm not sure what I answered before. Real estate has changed in 33 years, but it's also
everything
like a lot
changes.
of things. It's also, there's still some basics that are the same. A lot more technology, obviously, but the key thing is about wanting to be, if you want the career in real estate, is if you enjoy working with people and you enjoy helping people, then I think your career path will be a good one.
Yeah.
If that's not something you enjoy, then perhaps not. But if you like people, you like helping them, it's a great career.
So I'm assuming you're 33 years in real estate and your profession. Obviously, you continue doing it for such a long period of time because you enjoy working with people.
Very much so.
Yes.
There's a challenge, and like I tell my wife a lot of times when I do have a challenging client and stuff like that, if you have a job, a regular 9 to 5, and you've got bosses that just drive you crazy, that you're pretty much stuck unless you want to just quit.
Yes.
And, if there's a little bit of, if you're not working really well with a client, even though you're trying your best, you're probably only working with that client for 3 to 4 months. And then you've served them well, and hopefully they realize that.
Yes. So, Wolf, we've got a minute, and I want to ask you, I hear news last week announced that a major world shipping in Hanjin had filed for receivership. How can that affect real estate?
Well, I noticed that it was the Port of Seattle in Hanjin's, I think it accounts for 20% of the traffic that comes through the port. And, I think things like this are more important to our economy than we realize, because that, if the product doesn't get to Amazon and Amazon can't ship for the holidays, that can really affect a lot of people in our area. So hopefully that's something that'll be worked out, because the Port of Seattle is an integral part of our economy, and it'll be interesting to watch how that all pans out. So we'll see.
Well, thank you so much for joining me back in studio, and thanks for all the amazing things that you're doing out there for our area and for Realtors and, all of the boards that you've been a part of. Just a shout out to you and thank you, because that takes a lot of time away from your core, which is your real estate practice.
And thanks for having me here. It's always fun.
Of course.
Thanks.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, how do you find the best insurance from the best agents? Janet Grayling with Agent Review, the best way to find that right here at 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.